Welcome to the Walk in Victory podcast, where we sit you at the feet of the masters. I'm excited to introduce you to our host, NaRon Tillman, recording from the bustling borough of Queens, New York.
Good evening. I don't know what time you're listening or where you're listening from. It's your boy, your host, NaRon Tillman, and you are with me for another episode of Walk in Victory. Everything for me, like systems. And even with our communication and our communication styles, whether it's how you communicate on social media or how you communicate in your personal life or how you communicate with your business, it's still, if things are not in order, everything is thrown out of whack. I hope that you guys are living up to your excellence. I hope that you all are creating new seeds to plant and watching your life thrive, because here at Walk in Victory, we want to see the best for you.
I own a JSW Media Group, which is a boutique brand management and PR agency. We are headquartered right here in Charlotte, North Carolina. So if we have anyone listening from the Carolinas, I am here and representing. But we do have a national clientele. So we do everything from image, reputation, publicity. We dabble in some good old-fashioned digital marketing, social media, events, anything in the PR and communications realm that will make you look good and help build your brand. That is what we do. And in addition to that, I also own a lifestyle brand called The Stylish Vegan, because I have been vegan since birth. One of the things that I always say to every client, regardless if they're in crisis or not, is to keep it as authentic as possible. We get so caught up in image at times that we forget that your image really should be based in reality and are as your authentic self, because people relate to that person or that persona or those core values if we're talking about a brand. You have to keep it authentic. Yes, you don't put yourself out there to, you don't want to put yourself in a bad light necessarily, but acknowledgement, just like in any other kind of relationships, right? Like when you are in a fight with your significant other or you've done something bad, you have to acknowledge your part in it and be upfront about that. So when brands make mistakes, it's okay to make a statement saying, we messed up. This is how we're going to learn from it. And these are the steps we're going to take to make it better. So making sure that whatever you do is not just lip service, and the internet is forever. Don't let anyone think screenshots are always going to be there. So anything you say on Twitter, anything you say on Instagram, anything you say on TikTok, Facebook, what have you, just assume that's public knowledge forever. Absolutely. Because they haven't done the research. And sometimes the research doesn't have to be this expensive, extensive, what have you, especially if we're talking about a smaller business, right? Or an individual. Sometimes that research is talking to the people who follow you on social media and asking questions. Sometimes that's going to networking events and posing questions and scenarios to people who are your peers. And that's asking your trusted circle. That's asking your mentors. That's asking folks, here are my service offerings. Does this even make sense? Is this even what people want? Do surveys people who have purchased from you or use your services or followed you in the past. How does this work? Has this worked for you? You have to ask questions. You have to be open to the feedback. I try to be as direct but kind as possible. For the most part, when I'm talking to clients, I try to couch the criticisms with positive affirmations so that it still hits hard, because I want to be honest, because you want people to win. You don't want to just tell them what they want to hear, because that does nothing for anyone. No good can come from that. But you also don't have to go like all just hard just for no reason. You know, so my approach is always to correct in love, if that makes sense, and correct in kindness.
So becoming an entrepreneur and running a business is a daunting task.
Yes.
What inspired you to do this? What inspired you to get away from the 9 to 5 and become this ambassador?
Other than insanity,
I don't know.
no, there's so much. No, honestly, I have always known that I wanted to work for myself, even as a young person, even though I thought I was going to be Oprah back in the day. I was going to be on camera in front of people. And then I realized that there was just so much more than just being that type of a journalist and telling stories in that way. I wanted to be able to tell people's brand stories and help be the architect of people's brands and helping them really share their narrative. And so I've always known that I come from a family full of entrepreneurs. When people are working other jobs, they always have a side hustle. Like side hustle, I wouldn't even say we all had side hustles. Our main job, like whatever that 9 to 5 one, was always a means to an end. That was, oh, we just need to pay bills while we're working on the dream.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I always like to tell stories. So I was that kid who was people watching. Yeah, like 5 years old, I'm out and about. I'm like, Mom, did you see that person? What were they doing? I need to know what they're up to. I was a nosy kid. So that's where it came from, because I need to know what was going on, because you got a lot of people out here just raw dogging without any kind of guidance. And they're just like, oh, let me just say everything that just comes off the top of my head because I have a podcast and I can do this. And then wonder why they get in trouble later. And wonder why they can't shake this particular reputation that they now have. And everybody needs guidance. And that's what we're here for.
And just because you have a microphone doesn't give you an authority to say anything that you want.
Oh my goodness. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. There's different things that you still have to be knowledgeable about to keep yourself out of trouble. I was doing a speaking engagement a couple of days ago where I was really adamant about telling people that even if something is a hobby, even if something is something you might just be slightly interested in and you want to go in and do this partnership with your boy or your girl and just do something, get the paperwork, understand what you're getting into, and be very deliberate about making sure stuff is on point. Because even if it's a hobby or you're doing something part-time, you still want it all decent and in order. When the money starts coming in, you got too many people in the kitchen trying to figure things out, that's when folks fall out. I knew that I wanted to do excellent work, and I knew that I wanted to tell really good stories, but I wasn't sure what that was going to evolve into. And so it's been beautiful seeing how people actually trust me with their stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's such a blessing every single day I wake up and I'm just like, I have a team who actually trusts my judgment and aren't. Do you know how special that is for someone to trust their business, their baby, with you?
And with that comes a responsibility, right?
Absolutely.
Ignorance is not just because you don't know don't mean that you won't be held accountable.
Accountability is everything. And if you don't know, say it. It's okay to say,
I don't know.
don't know. I'm just being real with it. I had to learn delegation. I had to turn around and say that to myself. I did it that way. I didn't have in the very beginning, a lot of disposable income and operating money to hire anyone full-time or even part-time. I got interns to start. And what I loved about my internship program is I treated them like team members, but I really taught. I didn't use them as worker bees. I've always had really good people around me, like good strategists. I like to bring people who are going to give great ideas and who are going to sit in their power. And my goal is, even if there's just one thing that was said in a conversation that helps someone, then that makes that whole discussion worth it. I sit there and I'm just like, oh, I wish I could send a gift basket to their publicist right now, because I know they haven't slept in a week. So when I'm watching the news right about now, I am just thankful it's not me. Honestly, I am thankful that it is not me, that I get to actually stay hydrated, drink my water, and mind my business. It helps with conversations with my peers and with my team, because we can look at what's going on and gather whatever kind of lessons we need to gather. Sometimes we have this, especially in this society right now, it's such a blame culture. Nothing is my fault. We are in the middle of a mental health crisis. We are in the middle of so many things that are happening across the world that are horrific and that are having an effect on our collective consciousness. But at some point, we still got to say, even still, we have to stand up and do what's right.
So we have to learn to forgive ourselves. And sometimes our support has to be in silence.
Sometimes you have to publicly say, that is my friend, but I don't necessarily support what they do, but I support them. And sometimes when you are a public figure, right or wrong, you have a greater responsibility.
And my last observation about what you do and all this, I'm a huge Club Shay Shay fan.
The only issue I have with Mr. Shay is them medium shirt. We realize
You strong.
I am rereading the book of Revelation. Right? Because the world, there's some things that's happening. There's happening.